Welcome to the Mindset English channel. I'm Michael Carter. Welcome back. Today, I want to tell you a very simple story. It is not about fame. It is not about success overnight. It is about one small decision. A decision that seemed unimportant at the time. But 15 years later, it changed two lives. This story is for listening practice, so listen slowly. Every sentence has something to learn, not just English, but life. 15 years ago, the man was nobody special. His name was Daniel. He was 30 years old. He lived in a small American city. Not rich, not poor, just trying to survive. Daniel worked at a grocery store. He stocked shelves. He cleaned floors. He worked late shifts. He earned minimum wage. Some days, he skipped meals to save money. Some nights, he slept worried. English learners, notice this sentence. He was not lazy, but life was heavy. One cold evening, Daniel was walking home from work. It was winter. The street was quiet. The lights were yellow and weak. His feet were tired. His mind was full of bills. As he walked past a bus stop, he saw something on the ground. At first, he ignored it. He was thinking about rent. Then he looked again. It was a wallet. A black leather wallet. Old but clean. It was lying near the bench. No one else was there. Daniel stopped. This moment is important. In life, many big changes start with a pause. He picked up the wallet. It was heavy. Too heavy for an empty wallet. He opened it. Inside, there was cash. A lot of cash. More money than Daniel earned in 2 weeks. There were also credit cards. An ID card. A driver's license. The name on the ID was not familiar. The address was not close. But the face was clear. English tip. Familiar means something you know well. Daniel looked around. No one was watching. No cars. No people. For a moment, his heart beat fast. He thought about his rent. He thought about his empty fridge. He thought about how easy it would be. No one would know. This is where many stories change direction. Daniel closed the wallet. He held it in his hand. He felt its weight again. Not just the money. The responsibility. He remembered his father's voice. His father was not educated, but he was honest. His father used to say, "If it is not yours, it is not yours, even if no one sees." Daniel stood there for almost a full minute. Cold wind on his face. Noise in his head. Then he made a decision. He decided to return the wallet. Not because he was perfect. Not because he was rich. But because he wanted to sleep without shame. He checked the address on the ID. It was far. Across the city. He could have gone home. He could have returned it another day. But something pushed him forward. That night, Daniel took 2 buses. He spent money he did not have. He stood outside an apartment building he had never seen before. English learners, notice, doing the right thing often costs something. He rang the bell. No answer. He rang again. Finally, a man opened the door. He looked worried. Tired. Older than Daniel. "Yes?" the man asked. Daniel held up the wallet. He spoke slowly. "I found this near the bus stop," Daniel said. "I think it belongs to you." The man froze. His eyes went wide. He touched his pockets. He took the wallet with shaking hands. My wallet, the man whispered. I lost it. Inside that wallet was his paycheck, his rent money, his entire month. The man looked at Daniel like he was seeing a ghost. Thank you, he said. You don't know what this means. Daniel smiled. He nodded. It's okay, he said. The man tried to give him money. A reward? A thank you. Daniel refused. I just did what anyone should do, he said. That sentence sounds simple, but very few people live it. Daniel walked away that night. He went home tired, still broke, still worried. Nothing magical happened. No music, no miracle. Life went on. Days became months. Months became years. Daniel forgot the man's face. He forgot the address. He forgot the wallet. But life did not forget the decision. 15 years later, Daniel would sit in a quiet hospital waiting room, and someone would recognize him. But that is for the next segment. For now, remember this: small honest actions are not small. They are seeds. And seeds grow, even when you stop watching. After that night, life did not change quickly for Daniel. There was no reward, no phone call, no surprise letter. The next morning, Daniel woke up early. He went back to the grocery store. Same uniform, same shelves, same tired feet. This is important to understand. Doing the right thing does not always change your life immediately. Sometimes, it only changes who you are inside. Daniel continued working. He saved small amounts of money. He moved to a cheaper apartment. He learned how to live with less. English learners, notice this phrase, live with less, means to accept fewer things. Years passed quietly. Daniel did not become rich. He did not become famous. But something inside him became stronger. He became more patient, more careful with words, more calm with people. At work, his manager noticed something. Daniel was trusted. If money was missing, people did not look at Daniel. If a mistake happened, Daniel told the truth. Slowly, people relied on him. Trust grows slowly, like a tree. After 5 years, Daniel was promoted. Not a big job, just a small raise. A little more responsibility. But to Daniel, it mattered. He started helping new workers. He spoke clearly. He listened carefully. He did not judge. English tip 2, judge, means to decide too quickly about someone. Daniel also worked on his English. He listened to the radio. He practiced simple sentences. He spoke slowly without fear. He remembered how nervous he felt that night at the apartment door, and how calm he felt after doing the right thing. 10 years passed. Daniel left the grocery store. He found a job in a warehouse office. Still not a big job, but stable. Life was simple. Rent, food, work, sleep. And then, one afternoon, everything stopped. Daniel's phone rang at work. It was a hospital number. His sister was sick. Very sick. Daniel left work early. He drove straight to the hospital. The building was large and quiet. The air smelled clean but heavy. He sat in the waiting room. Hard chairs, white walls, soft footsteps. Time moved slowly. This waiting room matters, because waiting changes people. Daniel looked around. Other families sat silently. Some cried quietly. Some stared at the floor. Across the room, a man sat alone. He was older now, gray hair, wearing a dark coat. His hands were folded tightly. At first, Daniel did not notice him. Minutes passed. Then something strange happened. The man across the room looked up. He stared at Daniel. Not quickly, not casually. He stared carefully. Daniel felt uncomfortable. He looked away, then looked back. The man stood up slowly. Very slowly. He walked across the room. "Excuse me," the man said. His voice was calm but unsure. "Yes," Daniel replied. The man took a deep breath. "This may sound strange," he said, "but did you once return a wallet?" "Many years ago." Daniel froze. His heart skipped. He did not answer immediately. "Yes," Daniel said finally. "I did." The man's eyes filled with tears. But he did not cry loudly. He smiled softly. "You don't remember me," the man said. "But I remember you. Every day." Daniel searched his memory. The face was older. But something felt familiar. "The bus stop," the man said quietly. "Winter. Black wallet." Daniel nodded. The man sat down beside him. His hands were shaking slightly. "That night," the man said, "I was desperate. I had lost everything. That money was my rent, my food, my hope." He paused. "I was thinking of giving up," the man continued. "Then you knocked on my door." English learners notice. Give up means to stop believing or trying. The man looked at Daniel directly. "Because of you," he said, "I stayed on my path. I did not fall." Daniel listened quietly. "I was able to pay my rent," the man said. "I kept my job. I later started my own small business." Daniel felt something heavy in his chest. The man continued. "I taught my children about honesty," he said. "I told them about a man who returned my wallet." Daniel swallowed. "I never knew," Daniel said softly. "That's the point," the man replied. "Good people rarely know the full impact of their actions." They sat together in silence. Two men. One moment. 15 years of distance closed. Then a nurse called a name. The man stood up. "That's my wife," he said. "She's here for surgery." Daniel stood too. "My sister," he replied. The man reached out and shook Daniel's hand. "I waited 15 years to say thank you," he said. "Not for the money. For the reminder that good people exist." Daniel nodded. As the man walked away, Daniel sat back down. His life suddenly looked different. Not bigger, not richer, but deeper. He understood something new. Some rewards come late, very late. But when they arrive, they are heavy with meaning. And Daniel realized that wallet never belonged to him. But the moment did. After the man walked away, Daniel stayed seated in the waiting room. He did not move. He did not look at his phone. He just sat and breathed. The room felt quieter than before. Not because the noise stopped, but because Daniel's mind slowed down. He thought about the wallet again. Not the money, not the cold night, but the choice. For many years, that choice felt small, almost forgettable. Now, it felt heavy. English learners notice this idea. Some moments grow bigger only with time. Daniel leaned back in his chair. He looked at the ceiling lights. White. bright, calm. He asked himself a simple question. What if I had not returned it? That question stayed with him. If he had kept the wallet, his life would still look normal. No police. No punishment. No one would have known. But something inside him would be different. He realized something important. Doing the wrong thing does not always break your life. Sometimes it breaks your trust in yourself. Daniel had never thought about it that way before. He remembered other small choices in his life. Times when he spoke honestly. Times when he admitted mistakes. Times when he stayed quiet instead of lying. Those moments never made headlines. They never brought applause. But together, they shaped him. English tip E. To shape means to slowly form something over time. A nurse called Daniel's name. He stood up. His legs felt heavy, but his steps were steady. The nurse spoke softly. His sister's surgery was long, but stable. That word mattered. Stable. It did not mean perfect. It did not mean easy. It meant hopeful. Daniel sat back down. This time, his breathing was slower. He looked around again. Different people. Different stories. Different struggles. He wondered how many small choices were sitting in that room. Unseen. Uncelebrated. Hours passed. When the doctor finally spoke to him, the news was careful but positive. His sister would recover slowly. Relief washed over Daniel. Not loudly, quietly. Later that night, Daniel drove home alone. The streets were dark. The traffic lights changed slowly. At a red light, Daniel stopped completely. He smiled. The red light reminded him of the bus stop. Another pause. Another moment to choose. English learners, notice life often gives us pauses. What we do during them matters. At home, Daniel could not sleep. Not because of fear, but because of reflection. He made tea. He sat by the window. He watched the city lights. He thought about the man in the waiting room. About the wife in surgery. About children learning a lesson from a story. Daniel realized something deeper. That night 15 years ago was not about money. It was about identity. He had chosen who he wanted to be. Not a hero. Not a saint. Just a man he could respect. The next morning, Daniel went to work. Same building. Same desk. But something had changed. He spoke differently. He listened more closely. He paused before answering. A coworker made a mistake that day. A small one. No one noticed yet. The coworker looked nervous, unsure. Daniel remembered the weight of the wallet, the silence of the street. He helped quietly. No blame. No lecture. The coworker looked surprised. "Thank you," she said. Daniel nodded. "It's okay," he replied. Those words returned again. It's okay. English learners notice. Kindness does not need long sentences. Over the next weeks, Daniel noticed a pattern. When he chose calm, things calmed down. When he chose honesty, trust followed. Not always immediately, but eventually. One evening, Daniel received an email. It was from the man at the hospital. He had asked the nurse for Daniel's name and searched. The email was simple. It said, "I hope your sister is well. I wanted you to know that I try to live like you did that night, when no one is watching." Daniel read the email twice. Then once more. That sentence stayed with him. When no one is watching. That is where character lives. Daniel replied with one short message. I'm glad you're well. Please take care. Nothing more. No long story. No praise. Daniel understood something now. The best actions do not ask for attention. They create quiet ripples. English learners, notice, a ripple is a small wave that spreads outward. Daniel began sharing this idea with others. Not as a lesson, but as a practice. When teaching new workers, he spoke about responsibility. When listening to friends, he listened fully. When making decisions, he asked one question. Can I respect myself after this? That question guided him. Weeks later, Daniel walked past a bus stop. Not the same one, but similar. He saw people rushing, looking at phones, thinking about their own lives. He smiled again. Life is full of wallets, not always physical ones, but moments of choice. We do not always see the result. We do not always meet the people we help. But that does not mean nothing happens. Sometimes the reward is delayed. Sometimes it comes quietly. Sometimes it changes someone else's story. And sometimes it changes who you become. Daniel walked on. He did not know what the future held, but he knew one thing. The man he was becoming was built one small, honest moment at a time. And that was enough. After the hospital visit, Daniel became more aware of his daily actions. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, thoughtful way. He started noticing small moments. Moments he used to ignore. How he spoke to strangers. How he answered questions. How he reacted when things went wrong. English learners, notice this. Awareness is the beginning of change. Daniel realized that most days are not made of big events. They are made of habits. The way you wake up, the way you speak at work, the way you treat people when you are tired. These things shape your life more than rare, big moments. One afternoon, Daniel was asked to train a new employee. The man was young, nervous. English was not his first language. Daniel remembered himself, years ago. Quiet, careful, afraid of making mistakes. So Daniel slowed down. He spoke clearly. He used simple words. He repeated instructions without frustration. The young man relaxed. "Thank you for being patient," he said. Daniel smiled. Patience costs nothing, but it gives confidence. English learners, notice this sentence. Simple language builds strong understanding. Over time, Daniel became known for something. Not speed. Not strength. Reliability. When a problem happened, people came to Daniel. Not because he had all the answers, but because he stayed calm. Calm is powerful. One evening, Daniel made a mistake himself. A small one, but enough to cause trouble. The old version of Daniel might have stayed quiet. Hoped no one noticed. But Daniel had changed. He spoke up. He explained clearly. He accepted responsibility. The manager listened. "Thank you for being honest," the manager said. "We'll fix it." Nothing terrible happened. English learners, notice honesty often feels scary before you use it. Daniel felt lighter that night. Mistakes no longer felt like threats. They felt like lessons. At home, Daniel began journaling. Just a few sentences each night. What went well? What felt wrong? What he learned. Writing helped him slow his thoughts. It helped him practice English. It helped him understand himself. He wrote about the wallet sometimes. Not the event. The meaning. He wrote this line one night. Integrity is what you do when the result is invisible. That sentence stayed with him. Weeks turned into months. Daniel was offered a new position, more responsibility, more trust. Not because he asked, but because people noticed. Success did not rush into his life. It arrived quietly. Daniel accepted the role carefully. He did not promise perfection. He promised effort. That promise mattered. At the same time, life tested him again. A friend asked for help. Not money. A lie. Just a small one. Can you say I was with you? The friend asked. It's not a big deal. Daniel felt the pause again. The same pause from years ago. English learners, notice pauses are chances to choose. Daniel thought about the wallet, about the waiting room, about trust. He shook his head. I can't do that, Daniel said calmly. I'll help you in another way. The friend was upset. But later, he understood. Respect lasts longer than approval. That night, Daniel slept well. Not because life was easy, but because his choices were aligned. English learners, notice this word, aligned, means matching your values. Daniel's world was still simple, still normal, but it felt solid. He understood something clearly now. Character is not built in public moments. It is built in quiet decisions. When no one claps, when no one records, when no one remembers, except you. As Daniel closed his journal one night, he wrote one last sentence. I don't control outcomes. I control actions. That sentence became his guide. And it would soon matter again, because life was about to place another small test in front of him. Not with a wallet, but with words. And words, too, carry weight. After writing that sentence in his journal, Daniel began paying closer attention to his words. Not just what he said, but how he said it. He noticed something important. Words can calm a room. Words can also disturb it. And most people speak without thinking. English learners, notice this idea. Fluency is not speed. Fluency is clarity. At work, Daniel now had more responsibility. People listened when he spoke. That made him careful. One morning, a disagreement happened between two coworkers. Voices became sharp. Faces became tense. Daniel did not interrupt. He listened. Listening is a skill, and it is often more powerful than speaking. When the room became quiet, Daniel spoke slowly. I understand both sides, he said. Let's look at the facts first. The tension dropped. English learners, notice simple sentences reduce emotional noise. Later that day, one coworker thanked him. You don't talk much, she said. But when you do, people listen. Daniel smiled. That was new. In the past, he tried to explain everything. Now, he chose fewer words. That made each word stronger. At home, Daniel practiced this too. On phone calls, in conversations, even in silence, he stopped filling empty space with noise. Silence, he learned, is not weakness. It is control. One evening, Daniel attended a small community meeting. Nothing important. Just neighbors talking about local issues. Most people spoke fast. Some spoke loudly. Some spoke angrily. Daniel stayed quiet. Near the end, someone asked, "Does anyone else want to say something?" Daniel felt the pause again. He stood up. "I just want to say one thing," he said. "We all want the same thing. We want to feel safe and respected." The room became still. He sat down. That was all. Later, a woman approached him. "Your words helped," she said. "You didn't attack anyone." Daniel nodded. Words can build bridges, or they can burn them. English learners, notice this phrase. Build bridges means to create understanding. Over the next weeks, Daniel practiced speaking with intention. Before answering, he asked himself, "Is this helpful? Is this true? Is this necessary?" If the answer was no, he stayed quiet. This changed his relationships. People trusted him more. They felt safe speaking around him. Trust grows where words are careful. Then came a test. A supervisor asked Daniel to deliver bad news to a team. Not his decision, but his responsibility. Daniel prepared carefully. He chose simple language. No excuses. No blame. He spoke calmly. "This is difficult," he said, "but we will handle it together." The reaction was not perfect, but it was respectful. After the meeting, the supervisor said, "You handled that well." Daniel understood something new. Leadership is not about control. It is about tone. English learners, notice tone is how words feel, not just what they say. That night, Daniel wrote again. Words are tools. Use them with care. He thought about the wallet one more time. That night, he returned money. Now, he returned clarity, respect, calm, different forms, same principle. Daniel saw the pattern clearly now. Integrity is consistent. It shows up in actions and in language. As he closed his journal, Daniel felt ready. Not for success, but for responsibility. Because when people trust your words, they trust your presence. And that trust can change more than a moment. It can change a culture. As time passed, Daniel noticed something unexpected. People began to copy him. Not in big ways. In small ones. They slowed down when speaking. They listened more carefully. They admitted mistakes without fear. Daniel never asked for this. He never taught lessons directly. He simply lived them. English learners, notice this truth. The strongest teaching is silent. At work, new employees were assigned to Daniel. Not because he was the fastest, but because he was safe. Safe to ask questions. Safe to make mistakes. Safe to learn. Daniel understood the responsibility. He did not try to impress. He focused on clarity. "This is how we do it," he would say. "If you don't understand, ask again." No pressure. No judgment. Confidence grew around him. One afternoon, a young coworker stayed late. He looked worried. "Can I ask you something?" the coworker said. Daniel nodded. "I found a wallet today," the man said quietly. It had money inside. Daniel felt his chest tighten. Life was repeating itself. "What did you do?" Daniel asked calmly. I didn't touch it yet, the man said. I wasn't sure. Daniel paused. He did not give advice immediately. He remembered his own pause years ago. Think about how you want to feel tomorrow, Daniel said. Not tonight. The coworker listened. The next day, the man smiled. I returned it, he said. Daniel nodded again. No celebration, no speech. Just understanding. English learners, notice. Good guidance helps people decide for themselves. Daniel realized something important. The wallet story was no longer just his. It was moving through others. At home, Daniel's sister was recovering well. Their conversations were deeper now. They talked about values, about fear, about quiet strength. You've changed, she said one evening. Daniel smiled. I think I've become clearer, he replied. Clearer about what matters. Clearer about what does not. He no longer chased approval. He focused on alignment. English learners, remember, alignment means your actions match your beliefs. Daniel also began volunteering once a week. Not for recognition, just to help. He spoke with people who felt invisible, people who felt unheard. He listened more than he spoke. Listening, he learned, is a gift. One man said to him, "No one listens like this anymore." Daniel did not respond quickly. He let the silence do its work. As months passed, Daniel noticed peace in his life. Not excitement, not luxury. Peace. His sleep was better. His mind was quieter. That peace came from consistency. He knew who he was, and he acted accordingly. One night, Daniel opened his old journal. The first pages were messy, unclear. The last pages were calm. He wrote one final thought. Legacy is not what people remember. It is what they repeat. That sentence felt complete. Daniel closed the journal. He did not know how many lives he had touched. He did not need to. He trusted the process. And somewhere, someone was making a better choice because of a quiet example. That was enough. But life still had one more moment waiting. Not dramatic, not loud, just meaningful. And it would bring everything full circle. Years later, on an ordinary evening, Daniel walked home after work. The sky was gray. The air was calm. Nothing special was happening. And that was the point. Daniel had learned that meaningful lives are not loud. They are steady. As he walked, he passed a bus stop. Different street, different city, but the same quiet feeling. People were sitting, some looking at phones, some staring ahead. Daniel slowed down. He remembered the first wallet, not as a moment of pride, but as a moment of clarity. That night had not made him rich. It had made him consistent. English learners, notice this word consistent means doing the same good thing over time. Daniel sat on the bench for a moment. He watched the streetlights turn on. A young man nearby stood up suddenly. He looked around the ground, confused. "I think I dropped something," the young man said. Daniel did not move. He watched. The young man bent down, picked up a small wallet. He opened it. Daniel saw the pause. The same pause. Years apart. Same choice. Daniel stayed silent. The young man closed the wallet, looked around, then walked toward an address on the ID. Daniel smiled softly. He did not stop him. He did not guide him. He did not need to. The story had already been passed on. English learners, remember this: the best lessons are lived, not taught. Daniel stood up and continued walking home. His life was not perfect, but it was honest. He had learned something simple and true. You do not need to change the world. You only need to change your next decision. That decision shapes the next one, and the next. Character is built quietly, without announcements, without applause, only with intention. Daniel reached his door. He unlocked it. He stepped inside. The world outside kept moving. People kept choosing. Some choices would go unseen. Some stories would never be told. But somewhere, a wallet would be returned. A word would be spoken gently. A pause would be respected. And a life would move in a better direction. Because one man once chose honesty when no one was watching. And that choice kept walking forward through time. End of story. If you listen to this story in English, listen again. Listen for calm. Listen for clarity. Listen for meaning. Because good English, like good character, is not about speed. It is about intention.